Hello and welcome to the last video in the One Lap Europe series, and it's of course about the Nurburgring Nordschleife. It's about the place that we consider home. I consider myself extremely lucky to be able to live and work here for the last 8 years, and trying to learn this track has been an extreme challenge. It made me a better driver and it helped me understand how many things I didn't know beforehand. So of course this video is special, and at the same time it is gonna be extra long, so I fully understand that maybe someone cannot watch this video in one go. I will put some timestamps, especially for people being able to come back and revisit it and find exactly the part that they want to see and watch that specific part. I really believe that the information in this video is very good. I also understand that this type of videos that have a lot of talking and driving and nothing funny in the middle, let's say, they are not that interesting. But I highly recommend, if you like the Nürburgring and if you want to drive this track right, to really watch the guide part. So let's play that lap. are back. It is a little bit of a pity that the lap that you get to see in this video, that for me is very special, is this lap. Is not a particularly special lap in the sense that the driving is not very good and the car is not really behaving how it should. However, I picked this specific lap because it is on a track day and it is in a completely empty track, so basically there is no real traffic. And for a very long time, I didn't really want to have my fastest lap online, and I think that people really do TF, the public driving sessions, they really do them the wrong way. We have this feeling that people that build a very fast car only to go out there and win TF, they are really doing it wrong. And in the sense, this was the reason behind this channel. We wanted people to understand that in order to enjoy this, you should not really take yourself too seriously. And you don't need a very fancy car. However, as you can understand, since I have my MX-5 for 15 years, eventually I ended up building a car that's actually quite fast. However, that was never the goal. There was not like a specific lap time, even though we might have talked about it in videos and we might have joked about it. But that are jokes between friends, and this is what I meant, that I believe that people are doing it wrong. I am gonna come back to this subject later in the video because I want to actually talk about driving and I want to get you to the guide part. It was very difficult to decide who would do the guide part in this video. Of course, I won't do it myself. This is a place that I love, one of my favorite tracks to talk about, and I think there was a lot of interesting things that I could share from my standpoint. But at the same time, all of us, all the people in the One Lap Hero team, we sort of have a very similar mentality on how we tackle the track, and maybe we have a few different approaches in a couple of corners, but we sort of think the track in exactly the same way. And without a doubt, the fastest guy between us and a guy that is actually a privilege to call him friend. Unfortunately, he's going to see this part now and his head is going to get even bigger. But a guy that I really feel privileged to know as a human being. And I felt from the first time that we met that he's a very special driver. Is the guy that will present this part. Without further ado, I present you Gabriel Piana, the GT3 driver, a guy that has actually won his class multiple times in the Nurburgring 24-hour race, a guy that has won the 6-hour race here in a GT3 AMG, a guy that has the credibility, and at the same time, he has the no-nonsense approach, exactly what we love. He's the guy that would jump in a Ring Banana, enjoy that, jump in a BMW M2, enjoy that, jump in a Cayman, in a Porsche, in an AMG, jump in any kind of race car, you know, and he would be fast. And my hope is that this information coming from Gab, it might actually be taken even more seriously by many people, and especially the later part of this video. The information is actually fantastic. The sound is not really perfect, but I think you can ignore this because just focus on what he's actually saying. So I'm gonna roll this right now.
I hope you're not here by accident, because in that case then you will be massively disappointed if you think this is gonna be Nordschleife guide like any other, and there is many, so if you just want to see somebody talking through a lap of the Nurburgring, there is many, probably much better than this one is ever going to be, because this is my personal version, the red-eyed, bad-haired Gabriele Piana version of what is supposed to be a lap of the Nordschleife. And by no means is the best way to do it, and by no means is the fastest way. It is just my way. And as a disclaimer, I'm not. I know that most of the guides that you can read or watch, they rely heavily upon reference points, such as I look at the tree, I aim at the old oak, and then I can. This is all bullshit, to be honest. This is not how. If you drive at speed, you have no time to look at oaks and whatever it might be, and dots on the track, and this is all bullshit. You basically go with the flow, so, and you have to, this is why you have to have a few laps in it. This is why it takes a little bit of time to be actually quick on the Nordschleife. Even if you are an awesome driver, which I'm not, but even if you are the best driver in the world, this is why it takes a little bit of time, because it all goes so quick that you cannot really rely so much on actual geographic reference points. Although I have to say that I don't rely on them on other tracks either, so I go a little bit by flow. But anyway, let's get cracking. So of course, funnily enough, you might know that the version that you're very familiar with of the Nürburgring Nordschleife begins with what is actually the end of the lap, because Tiergarten. So imagine driving to Touristenfahrten, you get out, from the entrance, you speed up, and you come from, you drive under the Bilstein Bridge, and this is the bridge to gantry. Although we don't condone lap timing in Touristenfahrten. Good, we are driving off, we are driving under the Bilstein Bridge. Of course, if you are starting a Touristenfahrten lap, this part is not particularly challenging unless you have a massively overpowered car. So if you have a normal car, it's basically flat out all the way to T13, which is not the case, of course, if you were to do a Trackday, because you come at speed from the Hohe. So of course, Bilsen Bridge, Antoniusbuke, easy, no problem. You can do it with anything, flat out, literally. But then it becomes quite tricky. So the first left-hander, which I think it's Tiergarten, I'm not entirely sure. Although I know the track quite well, I'm not one of those that know exactly the name of which corner in each section and knew who won the race in 1935. I don't know, it's just a track. So the first one I think is Tiergarten chicane, and there is a big bump on the left, and it's important to get the car straight on top of it. So if you, even with a race car, you know, you can travel at very high speed there, 260, 270, and even with a car that is not a GT3 car, even with a car that doesn't have massive aero, you can still go most likely flat through it, the first one. But as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as the car is placed, if you have experience, you've been there, and you probably have done it wrong once, and you know how it feels when the car is just, you know, moving about like some kind of pudding or whatever it might be. So if you just go straight over it, it's fine. Then it's smooth sailing. I'm not going to talk much about the right and left. Then the lap begins. So you have the first right-hander with the big curb on the inside. First, I highly suggest you to cut the curb completely. Maybe not on your first Touristenfahrten lap straight out of the gate, but this is what I do. I just cut it. It's much better. And then, of course, since you are driving on the Nordschleife only, you have this what you see on the right, you see this guardrail, and you see like right after this big curve that I was talking about on the right, there is like a sort of an entrance, and this is the old pit boxes. These are the T13 pit boxes. They are still used when we do when you have a track day. They are sometimes still used. But this is why there is this guardrail on the right. So on the other side of the guardrail on your right hand side, there would be the old pit lane, and if you were to go straight, you would go on the GP track. So of course you are not going upward most likely, although there are days where you can do Touristenfahrten on a combined version, which is called VLN configuration. So you will turn right where you turn around the big guardrail there, and there the key is just not to drive in too quick. Just carry some speed and be early on the throttle and use all the tracks. So there is a small curbstone on the left hand side, on the outside you can use freely, and then you're starting to drive and going down the hill towards Hatzenbach. And the first left-hander is a very tricky corner. I see many drivers, both in Touristenfahrten and racing, although mostly in Touristenfahrten, they really go, you know, like you're braking this downhill, and then the guardrail sort of ends, and there is the white line on your right hand side, and they go completely wild on the right hand side, which is completely pointless. As long as you have, you know, as long as you're staying on the right hand side ish, so let's say with your right hand side wheels on the white line, you're perfectly good. Turn in is much earlier than you think. Yeah. So if you just try to do like what would be like a school line, sort of a late apex, it is not the most productive way around it, because the way the track is shaped, so you want to go in early, so you can ride, so you sort of can ride the track like it is like a cambered corner. It isn't really, but this is what it feels like. Then early on the power, speeding up, you can use the curb on the right, and then you speed up, and this is quite an interesting area of the track. You could use a reference point here, which is the 2 kilometer board on the left hand side. So basically you come out of this tight left-hander, T13, and you start going down towards Hatzenbach, and it's a double corner. So the first one, it's not even a corner, not really a corner, but it is. And the important part here is not to be too tight. So just when you get out of the, as I said, left-hander, just don't stay too tight. Just go in the middle of the track and navigate the first sort of bend in the middle of the track, so that you don't come at such a sharp angle. So because imagine that if you stay too tight on the first one, then you have to go ideally fully on the left for the second one, but there is not enough space, so you're gonna end up compromising it because you come at an angle, and then you have to just turn the car, which is much better and much smoother to just stay in the middle of the track and get ready for what's coming up. Not a very hard braking zone. Here I would much rather suggest releasing the throttle relatively early and roll the car in rather than braking, especially now, because there used to be quite a big nasty bump on the entry, but now it's paved new, so no worries, just smooth sailing, smooth surface, zero problem at all. Then you can actually use quite a little bit of the curbing stone there is on the outside. You know, this is I really don't know, but with a big fast road car with grip and with good tires, these are 160 kilometers an hour corner, something like that. I might be wrong, you might be much quicker, but it is a fast corner, 4th gear, 5th gear. So, but don't do anything. So the corner just goes by very easy if you just don't do too much stuff. So if you try to go in quick and then brake after turning it, this is not gonna feel particularly right. Just be smooth in this sentence. Just don't do too much. Just let the car do its job. You're coming out of it, and I suggest, so what I do is I stay completely on the left, so completely on the left hand side of the track, until on the edge, until you meet another curve, sort of a bigger curve on the left, and then you move to the right. And of course here, I don't have any reference point for the braking. I go a lot by feel, and as a golden rule, which is seldom the case, there are no golden rules when you drive on a racetrack, but as a golden rule, basically, you want to always have a look at the apex. So you don't want to focus exclusively at the apex, because they say you have to look as further ahead as you can, naturally. You know, this you've heard many times, you have to look far ahead. But this is not something meaningless that everybody says because they want. It is a matter of fact that you have experienced also if you like skiing, or if you like, or if you simply ride a bicycle, to be honest. If you look in the wrong place, of course, whether you are skiing or riding a bicycle, your body makes a big difference. Much more than in a car, but eventually the same principle applies. So just want to look at the right place, and on the track you ideally identify the braking point, you know, and once you have it, you don't have to look at it, you don't fixate on it, and you immediately look at the apex. So looking at as early as possible at the apex allows you to gauge much better your sort of deceleration rate and the entry speed. Whether if you just focus on the braking point, or even worse, if you focus on a turning point, by the time you get to it, the apex is long gone and you're not going to be able to make it. So anyway, basically the track there is very bumpy, so you cannot brake that hard. So braking performance is a little bit compromised, but you sort of see the track is undulating, and you sort of can feel where everybody brakes, which is roughly, there is like a 1 or 2 crests, and I think on the second crest is where I normally brake with a car that has good grip. So depending on, you know, always depending on how much power and how much grip the car has, this sort of stuff can change. And a very common mistake now we are in the Hatzenbach complex, which is a combination of left, double right, and left. So basically they are all together. So if you misjudge or drive the first one completely wrong, you sort of compromise through the whole sector. And a very common mistake here is to brake. So we go back to the beginning of this section. So after the fast one, we have to brake quite hard to begin this kind of section of Hatzenbach. And it's a very common mistake to brake too hard and just go in, which is not turning in, but is going in. So going diagonally towards the apex very early.
Okay.
This is a common mistake also because the track allows you to do it, because of course you can still make it work, but it's not the best thing to do. The best thing to do is to take a little bit more speed than you think out at the beginning, and just let the car roll around the first curve. So just don't drive diagonally through it, aiming at the second one. Just drive around a little bit, so literally turn to the left and then turn to the right. So this gives you much better speed for the double one. So you're going to be braking and then releasing the brakes, and by the time you apex to the first right one, you want to be rolling your foot, your throttle down. It is a funny part of the track because they put this tire barrier very close, which, you know, it feels weird because they brought the barrier close to the track to make it safer, which is the case, because if the barrier is further away, the car sort of hits at a much sharper angle. Whether if the barrier is very close to the track, the car doesn't have time to just spin and crash 90 degrees in it. So it is actually safer to have the wall very close. And the track is the same width as before, but I sort of cannot help but feel it is a bit tighter now when the tire barrier is there. But anyway, like irrelevant information. So basically you are accelerating now for this double right-hander, and if you have a powerful car, you are already carrying some speed, because I think minimum speed after the braking is around 100. So if you have a powerful car, you're doing very quickly, and again 150, 140. And with most cars, the left hand again says you can go flat out, don't drive the curb. But on some cars you just have to maybe feather not to pick up the understeer from the full throttle push, etc. Again, there's a big curve where you get the cool shot, you know, when the photographer is there, you get the cool picture so you can post it on Instagram. Anyway, sorry for it, but this is exactly the place, you know it, the big Hatzenbach curve. So I suggest, again, don't try to bomb it and go too quick or too shallow towards it. These are corners, so you have to drive them. So you have to go from the left-hand side of the track to the right-hand side of the track and back again. So you really have to work the car to make it fast. And of course you can cut. Don't worry, you can get your picture. You can cut the curve big time, but don't brake too late and don't be on the brakes while you're driving on it, because it might not look like when you're driving it, but there is for the exit of the Hatzenbach complex, which is eventually the biggest, the most important part. The track is really going like there is almost a jump, not a jump, but a bump. So basically, I always remember there is a video of a Jaguar crashing on the inside, like literally on the, you know where the big curb is in Hatzenbach, and the car just spins, lazy spin into the guardrail to the right, which I always think, how can people crash on the inside of corners? But anyway, so basically this happens though, because if you don't do much with the car, then you have a lot of weight to the front, because of course you're decelerating when you're not doing anything, and this can give you sort of a pendulum effect, also because the way the track is shaped. If you come and see a race, whenever you could do that again, you will see that some cars literally after the curb, literally they land with the front wheels and have the rear wheels not on the ground, which means that if the driver in that case turns, the car will spin out of control. So give it a little bit of time, and especially after you go on the curb, just maybe pick up the throttle a little bit, like this 10% throttle, so that you know that the car is pushing forward. And that's it really. So then you are going towards, I think it's Hohe, the next corner. Again, this is a very steep corner, much steep. Of course, when you drive it, it's a blind one, so you don't know where you go right and you cannot see the left one. It's a very cool place to take shots, because you can get very close. And if you were to go there and take pictures, you would realize that there is probably 4 meters elevation change in 20 meters long length of the track. So it's extremely steep. I personally don't ride the big curb on the right hand side. I know people do, I don't. But I try to get the key there is just get on the power as soon as you can, literally, and just don't be too busy with the car, so that you cannot go on the power. Just let the car roll for the right hander, and as soon as you can, go flat and just use it, because it sort of catches you. You feel maybe that you're too quick, that you're gonna run out, but you're not, because it's literally like a roller coaster there. It's downhill and cambered, it's gonna catch you, you're gonna be fine. So then up the gears, Hohe, there is no discussion, it's flat out easy with whatever, unless it's wet. In this case, I suggest you not to do it flat right away. And then you go up. This is one of the corners where I probably suck the most, which is Flugplatz. I have a very big problem there, because you cannot see the corner until very late. So, although maybe some people think that I drive like I'm crazy, I actually have a big problem with limits. So I always feel like I could go faster everywhere. So I always feel like I'm restrained. And this is exactly the corner where I feel really restrained, that I don't have enough trust to do it as fast as you could do. So basically, is really relevant. So how much power your car has is extremely relevant, because if you have 90 horsepower NA, it's easy flat. You could literally like one arm it. So, but if you have like a 500 horsepower GT3 RS, you have to brake. So it's quite a big difference depending on the car that you drive, what you do there. And of course, like you have to understand that from doing it flat out, to lift, to brake, the car will feel completely different, and the corner will feel completely different. So, but as a general rule of thumb, you stay flat until you can see where you're going, and then you brake or lift or don't do anything, depending on your car. The important thing is just don't carry too much braking into the corner. So this is a fast corner, and in general, fast corners want you to be on the power before the apex or at the apex at latest, the first one at least there, since it's a double one. So don't trail brake in, because then you're asking for trouble. And if you feel like you're going in too quick, again, don't overreact. You probably have more space than you think. So just let the car do its thing. So don't brake in the middle, and just let it go. It is still quite tricky. I mostly have problems with understeer there generally, because the way the track is. So if you cap the throttle, and the track is not like flat. It has like a bump, and then it goes, and then it has a crest, and then it has another bump. It used to be horrible to drive, especially when it's wet, but now it's paved, which is good grip, but still the features are here. Then there's a triple left-hander down the hill, going towards Schwedenkreuz. So Schwedenkreuz, I will not talk about the triple left. If you cannot do that flat, you probably shouldn't be here in the first place. And but then you go towards Schwedenkreuz, of course. And Schwedenkreuz used to be like you needed like balls to do the crest flat, you know. But they ruined it. And I will not be that kind of guy. They didn't ruin it, but it's not as before. So it's they repaved it, so the crest, you know, it is a little bit less sharp, and especially now, you guys driving Megans, you can actually overtake there without crashing and rolling 55 times afterwards, because it used to be really bad. So it used to be on the right relatively okay, but since the track is not straight there, you know, you are going straight, but the track is not straight. It's like sort of flowy like this, you know. And you used to want to do that damn bridge to gantry lap time and overtake them before Schwedenkreuz, because otherwise they ruin your lap. And you would go on the left, but the problem is that on the right it was sort of drivable, and on the left it was like a proper jump. So if you did like a proper jump, and if you didn't know, you would come at a sort of an angle, not an angle, but the car would be loaded on one side. And of course, when the car is in the air, it keeps traveling in the direction it was before, and then it lands and it goes into the wall. So, but this is why you see, or rather, this is why we had the famous Megane crash with the car flipping front end first. It was frankly amazing to look at, but I hope the guys are okay. But it was shockingly bad. But anyway, now it's not the case anymore. You drive left, right, center. It's sort of okay, and yeah, luckily, the character of Schwedenkreuz though is still there, so the big jump crest sort of in the middle at the apex is still there. There is one of the corners where I also use reference points. So on the right hand side you see there is like a one that basically indicates a dangerous corner, because it's because Touristenfahrten, and the other one sign is a sign, a kilometer sign. So as a rule of thumb, if I don't know what I'm driving and it's the first lap, I brake at the first sign, and then I release the brakes, and then I put a little bit of power in so that I can drive through the corner with some push, some traction, so I'm not getting caught out by this crest in the middle. What you see is you see a lot of people, front wheel drive especially, that they carry too much speed in, but then either they get scared or something, and they don't have any power. They don't have the car is not being pulled, or rather pushed from behind or pulled from the front wheels, and they basically have nothing happening when they go on the crest. And again, it's the same thing. So when you go on the crest and you do nothing, the weight is going to shift forward and the car is going to spin on the inside. And then if you don't do nothing, or rather if you don't do anything, the car is going to spin on the inside. And if you overcorrect it, the car is going to go to the right. And it's not. I've been there. I've done it. So don't. So it's still tricky. So just be prepared. You want to be. By the time you turn in, you want to have some power in, regardless of what you drive. Regardless if you have big wing or no wings, or rear wheel drive, front wheel drive, side wheel drive, rear engine, no engine. You want to have some power in. And then you can. This is also a part that is being repaired. This is completely repaired, I think. It used to be like a nightmare when it's wet, and now it's perfectly fine. Then again there you can sort of gauge your braking point, but there is a small curbing on the inside of Schwedenkreuz. The end of the curbing is more or less your braking point. What does it mean more or less? More or less it means that depending on your car, you would brake a little bit after or a little bit before, but you can sort of gauge it by that kind of reference or feature of the track. And then you go. The next one is Arenberg, which is a very tricky corner. So it is a simple corner, and I let you into a little secret. So it's not a secret, but it's a fact. So like you come here with a mate, and you both have you're both having I don't know two E46s M3s, and he's really quick in Schwedenkreuz, and you think, and he's a bit quicker than you in Bridge to Granty. You know it because you know it, not because you're timing yourself, but you know, and you think, what I'm lacking is the balls to do Schwedenkreuz full. I promise you that if you do Schwedenkreuz 20 kilometers an hour slower than him, you will probably lose half a second. Half a second is you're never gonna lose half a second. You have to do it at 100 kilometers an hour less. So you lose probably 2/10. So between doing it like this and doing it like it's no problem, it's probably 2/10. But if you fuck up the braking, or if you fuck up Arenberg, you can easily lose 1 second. Easily. And the corner is like a 80 kilometers an hour corner with a road car. So just don't focus so much on Schwedenkreuz. Just go through it and get your shit together for Arenberg. It's much, much more important. Which means brake, of course, late enough for it to make sense, but not too late that you go wide or in the gravel. And also, especially, you just want to have the power down early, because then you have all the drive down the Foxhole. So, not really a lot to say. It's a relatively straightforward 190-degree corner. It is downhill, so of course you're going to have some oversteer maybe on the entry. There is a nasty tarmac change there, so if you're really going quick, this can catch you off right now. It didn't used to be there, but it's there now. It shouldn't be a big problem, but it can be. Just don't brake too late, and don't do this stupid line completely on wide to the left all the way to the gravel and later. I mean, it is not what you need to do there. You need to be relatively early in, relatively close to the apex, but the key is that to carry as much speed as you can on the entry while still be able to go quick on the power. Your line doesn't really matter so much, so if you are 20 centimeters wider or tighter, it doesn't matter. Especially, really don't do late turning there, because it's just a waste of time, helps nothing. Right, you've done it right, you're blasting down the Foxhole. It is still as bumpy as it ever was. Not much to say, just go through the gears to avoid the curves, but even if you were to catch one curve and if you don't do anything stupid, nothing is going to happen. And then the Foxhole. Foxhole, of course, if you're driving a car with a lot of power, it can be quite uncomfortable. So you can easily get to 60 to 70 with a very fast car, because the Foxhole is like this, guys. I mean, it's crazy. It's like more than 10%. So, it's the same story as with Schwedenkreuz. If you lift a little bit in the Foxhole, it's going to cost you nothing. Nothing. It's going to just be safer. You're going to lose like literally nothing from the performance side if you are into that. So just be safe through there. Just don't do stupid things. It's a very dangerous place to be, and very fast. So just be smart there. If you lift a little bit, doesn't make any difference, because you still have to brake. So if you go in 5 kilometers an hour slower, you might brake 2 meters later, and it's the same. So just don't do anything stupid. I suggest. So I see a lot of people there that are so worried about it that they go down the Foxhole and they keep going straight, and they sort of I don't have like a video here to see, or to show you, but they go straight, and then basically they come into the compression that they are completely on the left already. So, and then they have problems to make it work on the exit. So literally, this is a very common mistake, which is fixed by literally going to the right before the Foxhole. So before the actual compression, just go a little bit to the right. So the Foxhole is like this, and then the compression. So just before the compression, just stick a little bit more to the right and turn, because it's never going to be a problem to turn the wheel there, because you're going to have all the grip in the world. The problem is that after it, if you have to unlock and then you have to brake, probably not the best place to be. So just open it a little bit more so you can get a little bit more room in the exit. The exit, I highly suggest not to take the curb on the outside. Been there, done that. But of course you can cut quite heavily the one on the inside, on the top. You know, it's gonna be quite hard with a road car. So, but imagine that the car is really heavily loaded. So let me go back a little bit. So we go into the compression, we brake, and there's quite an easy reference point. Literally, the tarmac is literally pushed into the ground at the braking point. So you see, and literally see, an area of the tarmac which is like a hole, sort of, to speak. I'm exaggerating it, yeah. But this is exactly where you wanna brake. You wanna give the time to the car to be like relatively flat, which means that they are not completely turned like this. So just unload the car a little bit and brake relatively hard. So it's not like a full-on braking, unless you're driving something crazy. It's not a full-on brake, but you can still carry a lot of speed to the top, as long as you do the right thing, which is don't carry the brake over the top. So don't brake late and carry the brakes. You don't want the car on its front there. You want the car on its rear. So you want the car sitting down and be ready to drive on the curb. Nothing's gonna happen, because worst case scenario, you're gonna be quick. You're gonna go close to the edge of the track to the right, which is not fastest way, but it's safe. If you brake and if you want to keep it in and you are scared that the car is gonna do funny things, and I think here Costas could slide contribution from Andrea Cantono. Which is exactly what happens when you are a bit too brave at the bottom and a little bit too chicken at the top. So if you want to go balls out, you have to go balls out until the car is back under control. So you cannot really fix it once you go in. And then now we are in Adenauer Forst. I think the right-hander doesn't even have a name, but let's call it Adenauer Forst. The right-hander is really fast, guys. So if you don't have to brake. In the wet it's really difficult to drive, and you have to stay completely on the left, by the way. But in the dry it's really straightforward as it gets. You know, just don't brake too late, brake early enough, pick the throttle up soon enough, and please, of course. Now we are in Adenauer Forst, right? So if it is unacceptable in 2020 to go straight. It's completely unacceptable. There is like 100,000 million videos of people going straight, and still today you go to a Touristenfaden day and still people fucking go straight. And so I shouldn't say that. Say why? How? Literally, does this mean? So this is the only thing I can think of, is that you are at home and say, yes, this year I'm gonna go to the Nordschleife. I've never been, but I'm gonna go to the Nordschleife. And I refuse to think that when you actually develop this kind of decision, you don't research. So I don't believe it. So for sure you go and say, I will. Of course you will say, yeah. Let's say that you're coming with a Golf R. Say, of course you're gonna be here and coming here, and you are so talented that you're gonna be the fastest guy with a Golf R to ever be here, even though you've never been, because everybody else is an idiot. I get this. This is human mentality. Fully on board. Everybody feels like he's the best at everything, granted, but you will still research. You will still look at a lap which is quick and say, I can do better than that, which is fine, but at least you know that there is this corner where a lot of people go straight because you cannot see, and it's a very slow corner, and people keep going straight. They've been going straight for 50 years, and still now, despite all the preparation that for sure is gonna go through it, you're still gonna go, not acceptable. So if you come here and you go straight in Adenauer Forst, at the end of the lap, just pack your bags and go home. Like literally, there is no excuse. It means that you cannot, there is no excuse. You can do mistakes everywhere, but to go straight there, it means that you are completely clueless. So literally, stop. You're a danger for yourself and everybody else, go home. So not excusable, not excusable, yeah? Okay, let me go back. So this right-hander is quite quick, but then you see there is like the curving on the left-hand side. It sort of comes towards you. It's sort of like you know, the corner keeps going, you know, and this curving is sort of coming towards you, and it is super easy. You just have to keep going straight. So when you sort of reach the curve, this is round about your braking area. Yeah? Just brake and keep going straight. You don't need to go wide. You don't need to go completely to the right-hand side. Just go straight. As long as when you are this much away from the inside curve of the first tight left-hander, you are golden. You don't need to go wide and get the drive-through, because there is no straight afterwards. So even if you were to prepare the first tight Adenauer force like crazy, completely wide, so first of all there is no grip there because nobody tries there. But secondly, even if there was, and even if you could, and even if you do, then there is no advantage, because of course you're gonna carry a lot, you can carry more speed, but then there is the next one. So what are you gonna do about it? So just stick to the inside, not completely on the inside, but stick relatively to the inside. Just stick less meters. Let's say like this. You really want to do the least meters possible. Just stay tight to the curb, all the way to the exit, and get the right hander ready. The first one, literally the left hander of Adenauer force is just an inconvenience. You know, the corner that you want to focus on is either the fast right hander before or the tight right hander afterwards. The one in the middle is just stay tight, brake early, carry speed, stay tight, don't do meters, and don't go straight. Okay, now you've done it, Adenauer force, accelerating through the gears again, and then you're going towards one of the corners that is quite a little bit tricky. So, especially if you have a lot of power, it is really one of those places where you have to have balls, for sure. It's Metzgesfeld 1, which is, again, risking your life there is probably not going to be massively productive for the lap time, because it's the same principle. Right after you have a braking zone. So if you carry a little bit more speed, so there is sort of a point where diminishing returns. Of course you cannot do it at 80 kilometers an hour, but between doing it at I'm throwing numbers, between doing it at 160 and 165, the risk is probably tenfold and the advantage is 0. Because you still have a braking zone right after. So of course be there and thereabout, so that you can carry some speed, but don't go crazy and also don't get so stuck up with this corner. It's much more important to do the Metzgesfeld 2, right? But anyway, coming back to Metzgesfeld 1, what I do is I have no reference point, literally nothing. I go by feel. And what I do, and what I see many people do, is that they go, so the track is going up the hill straight, and then it sort of like bends, and then there is the actual corner. And what I see people do is the same mistake, if you think about it, that some people do at the fast Hatzenbach ride, which is they stay tight. So you come out of Adenauer force and you're left, you know, and some people go to the right side of the track. Then they sort of shortcut it, so they just cut it straight. They go diagonally, so the apex sort of at the first bend, but then they come at an angle. So the corner is still going this direction, but instead of coming like this, you're coming at an angle. So of course you're coming at high speed, it's bumpy, so there's a big bump, so you're gonna have to brake on a bumpy part of the track and literally choke the car in front of a fast corner. I highly suggest to do what is a bit more difficult to begin with, but much easier in the long run, which is stay on the right hand side. Literally avoid, you know, if you think about Metzgesfeld 1, literally there is like this first corner, this first bend before the actual corner. Just stay on the right, completely on the right hand side. So the tarmac is actually separated in the middle. So the right, there is like 2 lanes. If you go in the inside lane, of course it's much easier because you don't have to work there, it's just a straight line, but it's very bumpy, and as I said, you're gonna choke the entry. If you go and stay on the right, of course you're gonna have this tricky sort of situation where you're coming and you have to turn and then you have to brake. So it's quite tricky, but then your car is like this, ready to do the corner, and not coming choked to the entry point. So do that instead, is much better, feels much better. Just don't brake too late, and especially, as always, don't carry the brakes. Very fast corner. In general, fast corners, brake off early. Slow corner, brake off later into the corner. So this is being a fast corner, just brake off early, power early, get the speed in. Minimum speed is what is important. Then we come to Metzgesfeld 2, and a relatively quite easy reference point for most is the end of the curbing on your right hand side. So coming out of Metzgesfeld 1, there is a curbing all the way, and at the end of it is there or thereabout, depending again on the speed that you carry and the car that you have, there and thereabout is your braking zone. And again, a common mistake that I see in Metzgesfeld, let me rephrase it, a common mistake that I do in Metzgesfeld 2 is that sometimes I try to make it a bit easy for myself. So sometimes either I brake too late, so it's very easy for me to brake too late there, because the corner still catches you. So you're gonna be, this is what I'm trying to say, is that you're gonna still make the corner. It's gonna feel okay, but it's not. You know, this is one of these areas of the track where you can do it completely wrong and still feels okay, but it isn't. So what you need to do is that you need to brake in early enough that you can ride at the camber, because the track there is really cambered on the inside. So you have to brake early enough so that you can go in and carry the speed, and it has to be difficult to get out of it. So Metzgesfeld 1 is like a left-right-hander. So you go left-hander, and then there's like, it's not an actual corner, but let's say that the exit is bent towards the right. If the exit is easy, literally, you're slow. So the exit needs to be like that you need to use everything, that when you get out, that you need to use all of the tarmac to the left-hand side. There you've done it right, because then you've carried the speed and been on throttle. If you exit and you're in the middle of the track, there is something that you left on the table. I'm saying it now, I'm not talking about gears, first of all, because I don't know personally which gear I'm driving, and secondly, I don't know what you are driving. So gears are, you know, you just hear it, you know, hear it. If the engine is, you're too long, and if the engine is like, bah, you're too short. Okay, so get something in the middle. We are out of Metzgesfeld 2. The track really sort of disappears from us. It used to be one of those corners where, you know, the guy that's been here 40 years could make a difference. And now it's just a corner, like 1 million others. It's just, everything is new pavement, grip without end. So do whatever you want, literally. So brake late enough. I think the sign can sort of be a reference point. But it's important here. It's not an early turning, so you don't turn in early, but you don't stay on the left either. So you sort of aim towards it and then you turn in late. So it is not the curving inside, it's a little bit like squared. So you sort of have a two sharper edges, two sharper angles, and then sort of flattish in the middle, going down the hill. So you want to basically sort of miss the first one and be close to the second one. And this you can only do if you turn relatively late while still not being completely on the left, because if you stay on the left, you're never gonna, you have to be so slow to actually make it. So literally you will see what you do is that you brake and then you sort of go in and then you turn. You know? I don't know if it's clear. If it's not clear, I cannot help you anymore on this. Early on the power, and now Piff Puff. Again, Piff Puff or Spiegelkurve, whatever it's called. Again, it used to be such a character corner, you know, there was a big bump and everything, and now it isn't anymore. So it is still, of course, if you come here for the first time, it's still gonna be like, whoa, but imagine what it was before. It is newly repaved as well, so just carry the speed. The key there is just don't do anything with the car, literally. Release early, so let's say you're accelerating out of it, the worst thing you can do is to just stay flat and then brake hard. Not gonna work there. Just much rather lift and stay with 10% throttle, drive through it and go flat. It will be super easy and faster and safer. And then we go to, there's really not much to say, now it's easy. Yeah? And now there is, we're coming to the Miss It Miss. Also paved new for most of it, so the old pavement starts again right at the exit. Stay on the left hand side and stay there more than you think. So this is the key. The key is that if you go in, you can go in early, naturally. So you're coming out of Piff Puff, you are on the left hand side of the track and there is like a rumble strip, yeah, on your left hand side. So you can right away go in. So you brake and you go in right away. You're gonna make it, it's no problem, but this is not what you want to do, because then becomes like hit, 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 or hit, hit, miss. It is called miss, hit, miss, which is you're gonna miss the first one, which means that you have to go straight a little bit longer than you think and then turn so that you can get the speed and carry the speed through it. Because if you go in early and it becomes like a hit, hit, miss, then you cannot go on the power. And midway through, you're gonna have understeer and you're gonna have to wait. So what you need to do is just stay a little bit longer on the left hand side and then be more aggressive with the turning, power out. By the time you are at the second apex, just put it down. There is this tarmac change, which is a little bit of a bump, which is, I find it quite funny, because you're going and going, and then going, oh, it's fun. And then Versailles. No idea where I'm braking. I probably, if you were to look at I don't know, 50 laps, I will be probably braking 50 times in different places. Also because it's so connected to how much speed you're carrying to the section. So it's enough that you overtook a car, or it's enough that you missed a little bit the exit of Kleine, that you come there with 5-6 kilometers an hour slower, and it's a different braking point. So just go by feel. What I do is, of course, stay on the left hand side, do most of your braking there. But basically what happens is that you have to brake, and it is all a braking zone. So the track goes downhill, then right, and then really tight left. So it is not multiple braking zones. It's not like braking, release the brake, turn right, brake, turn left. No, it's braking, release a little bit the brakes, and brake again. So this is all one braking zone. It is tricky because if you brake hard and keep the pressure, when you turn, the car is gonna go like oversteering on you, towards the right, although the corner is on the left. So you have to modulate your braking and turning. Imagine there is this is a really driving school sort of thing. Imagine there is a string attached to your steering wheel and your brake pedal, so when you turn, the pedal comes up. Yeah, this is exactly what you need to think about. Yeah, so you brake, and then you release the brake, and you turn in, and then you brake again, and then it's finished. This is the slowest corner of the track. Am I right? Yeah. Slowest corner of the track. Again, coming back to what I already said about Metzgesfeld 1, if it's too easy to get out of it, you could do a little bit better. So it has to be tight. So if you want to go quick, it has to be tight. You have to use all the tarmac, and then the exit is again, very similar to actually Metzgesfeld 2. You come out of this hairpin on the left, and then the track goes to the right away, which can be tricky for traction if you have a very powerful car, or especially if you have like a BMW sort of car, front engine, the rear wheel drive. But it has to be a little bit tight there, so you need to use all the track. If it's just easy and you have space everywhere, you can do a bit more. And we go towards now we are going down the hill very steeply towards Breitscheid. Yeah, I don't know. So we are at the bottom of the track, bottom saying lowest point geographically in the elevation. Plenty of reference points here. So there is a curb, and there is the rubbers on the track. I mean, it's so easy to get the braking there done. Braking, if you have a very powerful car, you might have a problem there, because you might have to brake so early that the car is still, because you're coming down the hill, and then there is like this slight bend to the right, and then there is the actual corner on the left. There is space. I mean, it's not like immediate like Versailles. So Versailles is literally one next to the other, so you cannot help it. You have to just sort of play with the car. There, if you have a car with relatively good grip and not that much power, it's not even a discussion. It's flat until the car is back straight, easy, and then brake and do the corner. If you have a very powerful car, I can imagine that you might not have time to get the car steady again at the braking, which makes it tricky. So, because you might have to brake, and it's a hard braking, and the car might move on you, because of course it's loaded on the side, and you brake, and the car is gonna do this on you, and get the ABS and whatever it might be. So, key is there, if you have a powerful car, especially, to just coming out of Versailles, stay on the left and really do the right-hander corner. So just don't try to make it easy for yourself and go in, or rather creep towards the right-hander, and then finding yourself in the middle of the track right after, because this is completely stupid and it has no advantage. It is dangerous, it is slow, not what you want to do. So a little bit more work before and a little bit better results. So just stay on the left, turn and brake. Get the job done so that the braking is straight. Stay to the right hand side, and here the corner is much quicker than you think. Just let the car roll in with some speed. Pick up the throttle early because it goes up the hill quite steeply. And now Ex-Mühle. Ex-Mühle also used to be a bit trickier than it is. Now it's newly paved, and there is no problem with traction. Let's say less problems with traction. So the key with Ex-Mühle is that I see most of the drivers, especially Touristenfahrten drivers or hobby drivers, they brake like it's a normal corner, but guys, the corner is like this, is almost 20% inclination. Like it is so steep, you barely need brakes. So of course you need to brake, and it has to happen early, because you want to pick up because let me explain it this way. If you were to go in quick and brake late, so being the track up the hill, you're gonna pick up massive understeer, and of course you're gonna brake you know, and then when you're going to go on the power, you're going to be right at the steepest point of the track, and your car is going to have literally no drive out. You're going to be super slow. So what you need to do is that you're coming out of Brünnchen, come to the left, brake early enough, release the brakes, turn, use the track to finish sort of the braking, and as soon as the car is sort of going in the direction you want, just mash it, because now, especially with the new tarmac, there's so much grip that you could literally flat out it with almost anything. So literally very early on the power, don't get carried away, don't brake into the corner. The brake lights, imagine they are there and being a spectator. The brake lights must be off by the time you turn in. You know, you want to already be on the power there. You want to drive up because it's very steep and it keeps going. So it's not like the corner only. It keeps going up the hill for quite a little bit, and then it goes downhill. Lauda links. Where Lauda had this famous crash, and this is where the name comes from. And it is flat out. Of course, if you have a very fast car, you have to brake quite early because there the track, it's a very hard braking zone, you know. And I think we had discussed this some time other, but where there is this hard braking zone, the tarmac is all, you know, messed up. It's very bumpy because there is a lot of energy going into it consistently. So this is very bumpy there. So it is very easy to get the ABS intervention and not stop that well. And the barrier is not that far away, and I know. So you have to trust me. So if you have a powerful car, or especially new generation sports car, they are extremely powerful and extremely heavy. So sort of manage it. So you can flat out Lauda links with everything, realistically, but then you have to sort of, you know, adjust your braking point. And of course, as a reference point, there is one. I think there is one sign there. I tend to use that as a reference, which doesn't mean that I brake there. It means that I brake, this is roundabout where I want to brake, depending on what I have. I might brake right after, I might brake right before, I might brake like 10 meters before, sort of adjust it. The important thing is that you are on the power early. You know, the track there is super cambered. It's literally probably 10 degrees camber there. So at the apex of Bergwerk, which is the name of the corner, by the way. And just brake early enough, and so that you can get off them early enough, turn in, ride the curve, and by the time you literally, I would say not by turning, but right after turning, you want to pick up the throttle and start rolling it down progressively, because this is going to make a massive difference, because you have the longest straight of the track coming up. No, I think, no, not longer, no, it's not longer than the Höhe, but it's still long. So there, the key is really to go early on the power and be close to the curve, because the closer you are to the apex, to the inside, the more camber the track has. So if you are wide up, then it is flatter than if you are at the very bottom. So just ride the bottom early on the power. You can go on the power so much earlier than you think there. So early on the power, go for it, flat out. Then it's Abkesselchen. If you have something that is unreasonably powerful, this becomes actually corners. So, which means that you actually have to drive them as such. So you come out of Bergwerk, you can stay on the left, but then you have to go, if you have something very, very fast, you have to go on the right and literally apex the corner, going from the outside to the inside and on the outside again. If you have something that is reasonable, you can stay completely on that. So you come out of Bergwerk, you don't do anything. You just straight wheel, stay on the left, and you stay as tight as you can, because the least meter you do here, the best. So there is like a triple corner, so to speak. So basically you want to stay close to the first one, close to the second one, and then you're gonna want to go on the right hand side. So you're sort of gonna go wide for the third one, because if you stay tight for the third one as well, there's like the crest is just a little bit more pronounced. So much so that you might get like this kind of and which is going to slow you down. If you just go wide, the track is flat and no problem. You have no wheel spin, you have no loss of traction. Then Kesselchen proper. I think under 400 horsepower, we don't need to talk about this. It's easy for that. Beyond 400 horsepower, I don't know. We would need to discuss how your car is. Does it have street tires? Does it have semi-slicks? Does it have whatever it might be? Big wings, no wings. So if you have a very powerful car there, You probably could do it flat out. You can probably do it flat out. I've seen people do it at 240 kilometers an hour with road cars. So it is possible, but it becomes an actual corner and it becomes actual work. So take it easy there. If it's raining, be careful. Stay on the right hand side and brake a lot more than you think. Then up the hill towards Mutkurve, Klostertal, whatever they're called. If you have an extremely powerful car, going up this kind of, just before you get to the corner, to the actual corner, which is a left-hander, there is this kind of small chicane. And if you were to walk the track, you would see that the track is like this there. So if you have, and it is a straight line, but at the same time it isn't. And if you have a very fast car, you have some steering lock in it. So if you were to be in a powerful car with some steering lock in it, you have to know how the track is so that you can let the car do its thing. So the car is you're gonna turn in, the car is gonna go light, and then you're gonna feel the grip again, because you're basically gonna go over a crest like this at speed. And I'm talking 240 kilometers an hour speed, like not. So people crash there because they are too fast, or they literally, although it sounds completely stupid, or they literally hold on to the wheel too much, so they don't let sort of the car do its thing. So literally tippy-toe the car there, you can stay it flat, tippy-toe it, and it's gonna be fine. It will do whatever it needs to do to keep going straight. Which is the magic of physics. The car wants to keep going in the direction it's going. Then again, it's all related to how much power you have. You can be coming there at 130 kilometers an hour, like I would do with a ring banana, or you could go there at 260 kilometers an hour. So completely different experiences. As a general rule, the rumble strip on the right hand side is your braking point, which means a bit after, a bit before, a lot after, whatever it might be. Again, same rule as before, very fast corner, which means off the brakes early, on the power early to get the car stable, and go. It is quite tricky because there is sort of the track is sort of has a crest sort of in the middle. So it's like when you're driving in this direction, and the track is a little bit like this. So when you go on the outside, the front will never fit. It never feels good there. If you have a very good front there, you're doing something very wrong with your car, because it's not supposed to. So it's gonna push a little bit there, no matter what. But just ride it. It's gonna grab it again. So you have this feeling because the way the track is shaped, but you're gonna grip again. And the same goes for the, I think it's Mutkurve. I literally don't know the names of these corners, but so after this fast left-hander, you come back, but you don't come back immediately to the left-hand side of the track. You sort of want to go diagonally, and it's tricky because you cannot really see, and these are very fast corners, and I see a lot of people braking very hard for this one, which you don't need to, as long as you know what you're doing. So you basically come out of this right-hander, and the track sort of goes left, and you cannot see anything anymore. It's because it drops and goes to the right. So what you need to do, if you were to come straight to the edge of the track, then you would be coming to, so basically the track then is like this and then turn. So if you are already on the edge of the track, you're gonna go straight over the curb. So you have to really brake, because you have to literally turn the car twice to make turn. So you just have to be ready for it. There is a rumble strip on the left hand side, right there sort of, where the track sort of bends to the left before turning to the right. So you want to sort of time it in such a way that right where this curbing is, you reach the left edge of the track, so you can turn to the right hand side, and you have one corner only to navigate, and not two. There is the same. It is, since the way the track is shaped, if you do it at speed, you will feel the steering wheel go light, because literally your car will fly for 1 or 2 meters, because the track sort of disappears under you. So you're gonna turn in, the car is gonna go like this, and then grip and go. Of course, it doesn't feel particularly nice, but this is what it does there. And the key is, if you are unsure, just lift before and drive it with the power. Don't lift on it. So don't turn and lift, because of course you're gonna have to rodeo it, so to speak. So I wish I wouldn't want to be in that situation, because you're still going to be doing, I don't know, 180. So, and then Steilstrecke. It is the same story as with Bergwerk, so it's a very hard braking zone, and this means that the track is really bumpy, which in turn means that it's very easy either to lock up a tire, which is, since we are in 2020, we don't need to discuss, or to have ABS intervention, for sure you've seen cars crashing like straight on. I've been there, I've done it. So if you brake too late, you know, it's never gonna stop. You pick up ABS and it doesn't work. You know? So brake early enough. As a reference point, the curbing, there is a curb that begins very early. That is your reference point, which again doesn't mean that you brake there, but round about there. So look at that to gauge your braking. And again, don't be on the edge, don't be always completely to the left hand side of the track before the corner. You need to, after this fast kink to the right, you need to sort of work, you need to sort of come back a little bit to the middle of the track and then turn to the left and then brake. So you're straight, so that your braking zone is straight and you are opening up the radius of the corner. Because if you were to be on the left, you would only have two options. Either you brake and corner, which is, I wouldn't do it, or you brake and don't corner and then you go straight to the apex, which means that instead of having a radius which is like this, you have a radius which is like this. And of course you're gonna have to go slower to do the corner. So just work a little bit. I know it's easy to do nothing, but it is better to do something. Considering that you've managed your sort of braking, the key here is, I would say, so what I do is the least amount of meters. So brake not too late. So I don't like V-shaping it, so like blasting through it, go completely wide and come back. So I do that in the wet, but in the dry, early off the brakes enough so that you can carry the speed and you can stay relatively tight and still pick up the throttle early, which means that you still get the rotation. But you don't do this V-shape, and this keeps your minimum speed a bit higher, which is a good thing. And just pick up the power early, and then you can use the whole exit. So, but not immediately. So the corner is quite long. It's a 180-degree corner, and for the first half of it, you want to stay tight. And then you pick up the throttle, and the car sort of goes to the outside. And you can sort of use the curb also, because the curb is so high that it's sort of, you can like lean on it without going on it. Then up to the carousel, very bumpy there. If you have a very powerful car, you have to expect wheel spin, because it's like literally there are a couple of small jumps. And then carousel. Braking point is, you can literally see the track being used up by the brakes. So literally there is the braking point. And I used to be an advocate of bombing it, but in general I think a little bit earlier braking and a little bit more preparation. So you're coming straight towards it, so you don't have to do anything. Literally out of Steilstrecke, you could take your hands off the wheel and just let it go straight, and you will get into the right place. So don't do anything in the middle. When you brake though, instead of creeping into the carousel, just go straight a little bit more and then turn, which is gonna make it much better for your car, because you're not gonna crash into the carousel. And secondly, it is also faster, because it's the same story. So you open up the radius just a little bit, you can carry more minimum speed, and since the corner is more than 180 degrees, this is mostly about minimum speed. So it is not a corner where you brake, turn and go. It's a corner where you brake, pick up the throttle, and then you accelerate out. So it is much better if you were to brake a little bit early, so that you can carry the momentum there, and just don't, as I said, don't crash into it. Just drive on it and drive down to it, which is better for your car and still faster. Having said this, all four wheels on the concrete, so don't put your inside wheels down the concrete, stay on the concrete, and keep your speed up. So which means that you have to have your power, and it's not like it is a little bit work, because it is so bumpy there that it grips and lets go and grips and lets go. So if you want to be quick, you have to literally, push the car until it goes and then wait until it comes back, and you have to do it maybe a couple of times through it. But then important, early on it, because it will catch you, and you can get out of it much earlier than you think. You don't have to stay in it all the way to the end, because the pavement keeps going, but you don't need to. You actually, as soon as you can, you want to get out of it, so not too early, but you want to get out of it soon. So just, it's a very cool sensation when you do it right, because it's sort of like throws you out, but it works. So you sort of load the car up like a sort of a, how is it called, the one that's like a slingshot, yeah, exactly, like a slingshot. You sort of load the car up and go like boh, and if it works and it's perfect. If it doesn't work, you have to call the tow truck. But anyway, what are you here for? So anyway, cool, you've done it. Up the hill. What I do there is I come out of the carousel, I'm very close to the right hand side, I go completely on the left hand side of the track, because again, this is another corner, the first one, the first kink, which I don't think it has a name. This is again one of those corners where it's a little bit right and it's left, you know, and you have to, you cannot straight line it, you cannot make it other than what it is. So you have to, the first slight bend to the right, it is a corner, so you have to drive it like it is. So I stay on the right and on the left hand side, I turn so that I am straight, so that I'm aiming, the car is flat and aiming towards the guardrail effectively, but on the right hand side, and then I turn to the left. If you try to straight line it and drive it diagonally, it's gonna cost you like real estate, and you have to lift. And it's very tricky if you lift after the turning in the fast one. It's very tricky. You can have a very bad time there, and especially also remember not to go too wide, because there is this extra turf on the outside which is quite dangerous. But anyway, you've done it. And now we're going to Acht. Acht, super easy. There's a big curb on the right hand side, literally a big one, you cannot miss it. Again, it's the same. Some people have the tendency to go to, since the track is not straight, so after the first left-hander, the fast left-hander, the track is not straight. No, the track is like a long corner, and some people have this tendency to just straight line it. Yeah, but it's again the same thing. Then you end up to the braking, and you end up at an angle, and you are choking your entry. So make it a little bit harder so that it's better. So you have to actually drive the track so that you can get the openest, I don't even know if it exists, I don't think it exists, the word, openest entry possible for Acht. And it is really uphill, and it's newly paved, so it's a lot of grip. Don't stress over it. Brake early, pick the power up early, because the same principle as we had in Ex-Mühle, which is very steep uphill. So if you brake late, you're gonna be late on the brakes, and it's gonna be twice as bad as it would be, because it's so steep up the hill. So early on the power, stay close to the left, don't go straight to the right-hander. So there is this fast left-hander and then the right-hander. So you want to literally drive the left-hander all the way, stay close to the curb, and then turn up for the right-hander. So if you carry too much speed, then you have to really slow down for the right-hander, which is slower overall for the sector. If you were to sacrifice a bit more the first one, or rather work a bit more the first one, and then get the second one. There is a small bump at the apex of the second one, so be careful there, but nothing major. And then down the hill, so relatively early braking, turn in early, very early, so it's not a late apex, very early turning, close to the curb, and power early. So use all the track. There is also very common for people to get out of the track, to get out of the corner and have 3 meters to the left. This is not how it should be driven. You need to use the whole track. Then this slight crest that is coming up now, which is also tricky, but in the dry it shouldn't be no problem. Again, same thing. Don't try to straight line all this sector. You need to work. So you come from the left hand side, and there is this crest. You need to turn, because you want to be completely on the left hand side and ready for the Wippermann section. So Wippermann, relatively early turning, but not massive. Relatively early turning, no curbing, so you don't touch the curb on the right hand side at all, the first one. You don't touch the first curb down the hill. What you want to do is you sort of want to have, you don't want to get straight to the apex, so to speak. You just want to have, again, a little bit working. You need a little bit to work for it. So you go a little bit right, then this is where you brake. So you go down the hill, and this is smooth. So you release the power, you roll the car in, then you brake afterwards, and then you turn to the left, so that you can, because the key is to open the last one. The last one at the bottom, that is the key. I personally don't touch the curbs on the left, in the middle of Wippermann. I've seen people doing bonkers things there. Good for them, I don't do them. If you want to do them, I don't care. But this is what you need to do. So what you could do is not use the curbs at all, and just prepare the entry a bit more, so that you have the space to cut everything out of the last one, so you can get the second picture that you wanted, and you could write the hashtag Wippermann, whatever it might be.
Wippermann challenge.
Wippermann challenge. So you have 2 pictures to post on Instagram to show. Actually, you have to cut it so much that all the car is beyond the curb, because
That
this
is
is the
the
only
trend.
way.
In 2020, that's the trend.
This is the 2020 trend. So I absolutely suggest you to cut everything. So no, jokes aside, literally, guys, half the car. So if you don't cut it at all, it's worse. It's bad. If you cut it a little bit, it's really bad. If you cut it completely with 4 wheels, it's stupid, and you just need to cut it with half a car, so that your left-hand side is on the track and everything else is on the track, on the curb. It feels much better if you do that than if you cut a lot less, because of the way the car will be. So if you cut it so much, the car is loaded on its side, but going relatively straight. If you cut it little, which means that you have more turning into the car will feel more uneasy, because you're gonna catch it at a different angle and will, you know, shift the weight differently in the car. Anyway, I've talked about it way too much. Cut it. Right-hander up the hill, it's still Wippermann, as far as I'm concerned. It's one of the corners that I like the most of the Nordschleife. You basically brake at the compression, or I think the curb ends at one point. The curb being on the left-hand side exit ends. This is sort of the reference point. You cannot believe how much speed you can carry that corner. Just turn in early enough that you can. It's so cool if you do it right, because there is a big bump and you turn in and you go, the car is like, wow, but it still grips and it's perfect. It's fine. It's so much fun. And of course, it's very tricky because you cannot see basically anything, because the track sort of cumbers off you and is downhill. So the exit point, you barely don't see it ever. So when you go too wide, you realize you're too wide because you actually hear that you are on the grass. So, which is not a good sensation, but I don't suggest it. Yeah. Anyway, don't do it. But use it. You can use it. There is a rumble strip that you can use, although you don't really need. So it's not faster to use it. And then Eschbach. So most people don't go completely on the right-hand side. They sort of stay in the middle to be able to brake later. And because I see the benefit of doing it, because anyway there is Brünnchen right after. So preparing the corner doesn't help so much, just as much as it didn't in Adenauer. But I don't know. I don't do it. So I go completely on the right-hand side, and I use there is the sign that is the name of the corner on it as a sort of a reference. And I brake there, and I carry the brake very long there. Because if you brake too much, then you want to pick up the throttle, and you can't, because the corner keeps going and going and going. So you sort of need to use the momentum of the car to get the first half of the corner done. Then you can actually go on the power, while still staying on the left, because this is the key. You want to come back early to the left-hand side of the track. Because if you go too quick, then you are in the middle of the track, and you cannot navigate the first Brünnchen. So Eschbach, really release the brakes, try to come back. So basically you go apex, wide, apex again, you know, so that you come back, and the car is sort of, you have to time it so that the car is sort of straight when the track is also straight. I know it sounds completely, if there is a video you will probably be able to understand it a bit more. And then Brünnchen, a lot of people brake very late in Brünnchen, which is the stupidest thing you can do. Brake early, release the brakes early, and just turn in. The track goes, literally there are pictures of cars with the inside wheel in the air there, because the track is like literally goes down like this, brutal. So, but this helps you because you turn in and the car goes like, oh, there is no tarmac here. But then as soon as there is tarmac, it just grabs you and throws you in. Especially now with the new tarmac, brilliant. Remember to use, I personally use everything at the exit, literally everything. It's one of the few tracks in the world where there is no track limits, so this is one of the few places where you can do track limits. So I will do it out of principle. But what I do is that I really use all of the curb, and then I don't stay completely on the curb. I come back, and then I brake for Brünnchen 2. And Brünnchen 2, I don't have a braking reference. I literally only look at the apex. I'm coming down, I'm looking at the apex, I brake by feel, and then I sort of, you know, I feel it when the curbing is sort of at the end, it's finished. This is more or less where you need to be aiming towards the corner. Again, it's important. There is really two main mistakes which are opposite to each other. So either there is people that brake way too much, and the corner is really steep uphill. So same thing as Ex-Mühle, same thing as OLH and whatever. So if you brake too late, you end up having like losing so much momentum, that you pick up the truck so early that it's likely going to give you some oversteer, some understeer. The understeer is only going to last until the camber falls away from you at the exit. And this is exactly where you end up on YouTube because you crash into the barrier. So funnily enough, most of the people crashing like that, they are going too slow, you know, and they go too slow, pick up the throttle, lift or choke the car with the steering wheel, and then they fall off. I still don't understand how people can spin on the inside in Brünnchen. This is something that I've never even risked doing, but so be it. So what you need to do is just carry the speed enough, not too much, enough, and then pick the power up relatively early because it is uphill, and just be smooth on it and know that the track is going to be there. So just don't be so afraid. Don't choke the car up with the steering wheel. You can use the rumble strip on the exit. And now we're going towards Ice Curve. So you're coming out of Brünnchen on the left hand side, and you need to work, come back on the right hand side, and it's a very steep braking zone. It's the same as before. You brake early, release the brakes early, and go on the power early. It's funny because it's wrong, because you almost go on the power too early, because you almost go on the power just before the apex. But the thing is that the track is so much steep uphill that you need to do it, because you have to understand that literally you're coming at, let's say, 100 kilometers an hour, yeah? And you brake, and the track is either flat or downhill, and let's say that you brake at 50 bars, and the car is going to decelerate 1, you know? But as soon as the track, like right after, it is 5 degrees uphill, and you're doing a slower speed because you've already been braking. So the same kind of brake pressure, you know, the same kind of brake intensity is going to give you a deceleration rate which is tenfold what you had before. You need to know this, and you need to plan for it. The track is not irrelevant. The elevation changes are not irrelevant. They are a huge part of what you need to do. So in these kind of corners, you have to do something different than you would do if they were flat. So, which means brake early, like Ex-Mühle. Brake early, come off of them early, let the track do its job, let gravity do its job for a little bit, and then pick up early the power so that you can keep the minimum speed, because otherwise the car will stop by itself, because it's so steep that the car will stop by itself. So pick up the power early so that you can carry the minimum speed and be on the power and have the car settled and go on the power, and then completely cut the exit curve, because also there are photographers. So this could be your third pictures on the curve, on curves, which I don't know, like literally the whole evening. Coming down, then actually no, there is this kind of left-hander just before Pflanzgarten. It is easy corner. Maybe it's not flat with your car if it's massively powerful. Remember that if you struggle a lot with doing it flat, it could be that you're doing it wrong, which means if you come out of Ice Curve and you stay sort of middle-ish of the track or left, it becomes a tight corner, so obviously. So you need to trust, and this is another place where since you cannot see where the track is going, you need a couple of laps to get the feel for it. So this is another point where you need to let the car go where you don't see, but you know that will be the track there. So you need to go literally a lot going a lot to the right hand side will make your life so much easier for this left-hander. And of course you have this kind of, the fizzy sensation that you're letting the car go to the right without knowing, because you cannot really see the track because of the way the elevation changes, because you go from uphill to downhill right away. Downhill, a lot of photographers, a lot of spectators, big jump, you're my man. So just brake as late as you can, or not brake at all, and go in get the picture, but go in the gravel trap. I've done it, I'm proud of it, so don't worry. No, I'm joking, of course. I don't even have literally a big suggestion here. So the braking point, it is so much dependent on what you're driving that it is completely pointless for me to say this is the braking point, because there could be like 100 kilometers an hour speed difference between cars there. What you need to do for sure is that with a road car, definitely, you want to brake before the jump a little bit. So let's say that the total braking you're gonna do is 100. You wanna do 75 of it before, let it fly through it. So brake, release the brake, let it go over the crest. When it lands, do the rest 25%, which is just adjusting. So if you brake so late that you stay on the brakes, of course, as soon as the car is in the air, the ABS will freak out. So you will not have brakes for even after you land for 10 meters before the car brain sort of realizes that you're on the track again, which can spell trouble. So my suggestion is, again, brake before, release, brake after a little bit, but the real braking is before, you know. The after is just, you know, adjusting the car for the entry, and again, really early on the power, because again, it is a steep uphill corner. Although in the videos it looks flat, it isn't. It's steep uphill. And it's another key point is that if you, so you have to understand also that your brain, so you have some you know, self-defense mechanism, survival instinct, so to speak. If you brake very late, your brain says, go in now, turn in now, because this is where the most space is going to be. So if you feel like you're having this kind of problem where the car is always creeping towards the entries of the corner, I can promise you 99% you're braking too late everywhere this is happening. So just brake enough so that you have the time to allow your brain to work out what it needs to do at the entry. So if you brake like panic and going in, it's too late. It's also a lot slower. So you don't want to do that. So you want to jump, land, stay on the left and turn like it's literally a corner. Turning the wheel proper. Early on the power, steep up the hill. This is so funny here because it's this part of the track is really cool. It's actually one of the coolest parts of the track, depending on what you're driving. It is also one of the most challenging if you're driving something that really is fast, because it's bumps and jumps and crests and whatever, and mostly blind. If you drive something slow, it's just which is not particularly fun. So it is interesting. But I remember talking with I don't even remember who it was. He was saying, for the left-hander I turn where there is the blue graffiti, and I thought, Jesus, how can I even have the time? I'm normally there so stressed out. I'm doing literally 170 kilometers an hour, 180 kilometers an hour. I'm not looking at the graffiti. If you are turning at the blue graffiti, I promise you can probably go 30 kilometers an hour faster there. Just I don't know anything about you, but if you are looking at the graffiti as references, you are not going fast enough. I promise you. But basically, what you need to do there is after Pflanzgarten 1, this long double right-hander, and you sort of have to, this is again, this part here actually, from here all the way to the end almost, this is a very much of a feel sort of part, because you're traveling way too fast to actually have points. So it's just, you know, literally your brain knows, I have to turn now, literally this is going to happen to you when you have enough laps. The key part is always keep power in, which doesn't mean flat out, but it means power in the car, always power in the car, because all these bumps and crests, and if you want to always have push in the car, so the car is moving forward and it's not like spinning under you or jumping up and whatever it might be. So basically after this double right-hander, you want to stay relatively close to the right edge of the track and then go literally a very early left, because the track, you're gonna go like this and it's gonna flatten out and then start going down the hill. So you will turn in and you will feel like the car is not really doing anything, because as I said, you're driving over a crest. So you're gonna feel light and very uncomfortable. So, but you don't need to do it flat out. You probably can't do it flat out, but you need to absolutely not go flat in and lift midway, because this is a recipe for disaster. You need to lift, if you're uncomfortable, much earlier, so be completely safe and keep some in. And the next lap you keep some more, and the next lap you keep some more, and the next lap you keep some more, until you say, oh, I need a little bit more track at the exit than there is. So maybe you need to lift a little bit, yeah? So this is how you do it, this is how you build up the speed. You don't build up the speed going kamikaze into the corner and then lift midway. Now, you can do it once, but it's not the right way. So let's say you've done it, it's very bumpy, a bit wheel spin, the car is going to not feel particularly nice, but there is more coming. So you are now completely on the right hand side of the track, there is a rumble strip. You know. What I do sometimes is that I literally, I know it sounds ridiculous, but you have to believe I do. I literally put a bit of the tires on it so that I can hear it, and when I don't hear it anymore, I turn it. So literally I put the wheel like 5 centimeters on it, so much so that I hear it, and when I don't hear it anymore with the front, I turn. This is my moment, because you cannot see where the track is going. The track is going to go disappearing under you to the left hand side. It's a very fast corner. Don't touch the curb. If you do touch the curb, you know, let it go. So let it go, and I mean, like, if you do turning too early and you touch the curb, open the wheel and use the space that you have. Don't panic, don't brake, don't lift, don't go like this. Just ride it out. This is what I'm saying. Ride it out, let it go. You have space. It is not fast, it is dangerous, but it's savable, completely savable if you don't panic. So, but ideally you don't touch the curb, but you still want to be close to it, because if you're not close to it, this corner is gonna speed you very much to the right. And for sure with a road car you cannot do it flat out. So it's all about modulation. You have to go, you want to go fast. Who wants to go fast? Dicky Bobby. You want to go fast, but you don't want to go too fast. So what is going to happen is that you're going to turn in, and the front wheel is going to feel very light, and it's going to go to the right hand side. And at one point, this is fine. You can do it way too fast than you need to. But then the car will be a lot to the right hand side, and now you have a very fast chicane, the Bellof-S, and you're coming from the wrong side, so this is not going to work. So you sort of have to get the timing and the sort of the way that you release the throttle so much right that the car sort of feels like lands, it comes back to the left hand side of the track, so that you can prepare the right-hander. There is no benefit in, beside pictures, there is no benefit in blasting to the left-hander down the hill and then go completely wild to the right or in the middle and then having to brake for the chicane. It's much more profitable to sacrifice a little bit the first one and then be really fast in the Stefan-Bellof chicane. Stefan-Bellof chicane, which is extremely cool to drive because the car is gonna go like wow, wow, it's gonna jump and everything, but just let it do. It is not dangerous unless you do something. It is not dangerous. It is not gonna go out of control. What you need to know if you have a fast car is that, of course, again, you could straight line it, but this is not what you need to do. So you're coming out of Pflanzgarten 2 or whatever it's called now, the big drop to the left, you turn right very fast, you have a little bit of grip, then the car sort of goes like, it jumps into the, because basically you go from camber one side, camber the other side, camber one side. So the car is gonna like literally jump from one side to the other. But the first one you do, the second one you steer left. So you want to like turn a little bit in the middle one and then turn right. This opens up the exit a lot. A mistake that I often see with people that are driving fast cars is that they do it, but they don't do this kind of small bit in the middle. So they go straight towards the right hand side and all of a sudden they have no space for the exit. There is a big rumble strip that you can drive, but it's not enough real estate if you just go straight for it. You need to like go from one side, turn a bit and turn. You can do easy, even at speed, because there is a lot of grip, because of this sort of camber thing, but you need to do it if you want to go like, if you want to do it like right, if you want to have this, the stamp of approval, the 1 Lapiro stamp of approval, you need to work there as well. Otherwise, you're just one of many not interested. We go, we're almost at the end. It's Schwalbenschwanz 1 and 2. I really love Schwalbenschwanz 1 because it's so fast. You can go so fast there, it's amazing. Of course, with a road car that will have, I would imagine, relatively softly sprung road car, it can be quite tricky because the track, once again, the track is not straight getting to it. And again, many people do the easy thing to just straight line a track that is not straight and choke their entry, which they will brake and try and turn at the same time. It can only end way either in a crash or slow. It cannot be fast. You literally have to, again, once more, literally work it. So you get out of this kind of Stefan-Bellof chicane, and now you can see the track. You can see the track is open in front of you, and there is like this is an interesting reference point. There is like the Marshall post, so you can see it coming. This is sort of your braking zone. But what people do is that they keep going straight without doing anything with the wheel, and they basically reach this braking point. They are on the inside of the track, or rather to the right hand side of the track. And now they either brake and turn, which is, but by this time you're doing 200 kilometers an hour at least, so probably not the best idea. Or they just brake more and they keep going straight, and then they navigate a choked up entry point for the actual fast corner, which is much faster than you think because there is a lot of camber once again. What I would highly recommend is that you, instead of going straight for it, you stay on the left, turn the car, brake, and you're straight, and your car is happy, and you don't need to brake so late. You know, you can release the brakes, pick up the power, turn in, and carry massive momentum through it, and your car is working half as much as it would if you would come from the right hand side, braking, moving, choking it in. It's not gonna work. So much rather the other version. About the Schwalbenschwanz 1 and 2, then the next part is what you're gonna do at the exit of the Schwalbenschwanz 1, because it's so fast. And I feel like the best idea would be to prepare Schwalbenschwanz 2 proper, but from experience I know that is not the case. So like carrying maximum momentum, I mean within reason. So carrying the maximum momentum you can while still be able to be at least middle of the track by the time you brake for Schwalbenschwanz 2 is the quickest way in total. You could sacrifice, it's easy to go a little bit slower in Schwalbenschwanz 1 and be completely on the right for Schwalbenschwanz 2 and carry 3 kilometers an hour more for Schwalbenschwanz 2. But there is no benefit because the trade-off is bigger than what you're going to profit from. So just carry as much speed as you can. And I don't mean go to the grass, but I mean middle of the track. When you are middle of the track, but not middle of the track like with a steering wheel straight, middle of the track like you're steering and the car is, you have to work to keep it there. And this is where you're going to want to be. Relatively early braking, not brake too late, because again, it's up the hill and it's going to catch you. Relatively early brake and let the car roll into Schwalbenschwanz 2 and early on the power. There is some traction issue there because of the way literally the way the track is shaped. So I know also that, I've been there as well. So maybe there is another contribution from the Canton. I'm joking, but anyway, this is what happens. You can have oversteer there, so be careful. You can still use the curb a little bit, but you remember to come back, because the curb, you can use a lot of it at the beginning and then it sort of stops. So half of it stops, half of it continues, and you want to come back before it stops, because otherwise you're in the grass. And then Kleine Karussell, so small carousel. So the biggest difference is that the first carousel, we want to stay with all the car on the concrete. Small carousel instead, the small carousel has two different angles. So it's not, the first carousel is completely the same banking, so to speak. The small carousel has two different bankings. It has a steeper banking followed by a shallower banking. You don't want to be on the shallower banking at all. So you want to have your right hand wheel on the steeper banking to get the maximum amount of grip there, which in turn means that your left hand side is at the curb. So you're using the tarmac with the left hand side and the concrete with the right hand side. So of course you carry speed and you can carry more speed. So this is, if it was to be a flat corner, it would be 80 kilometers an hour, but because it is with this banking, you're carrying 15-20 kilometers an hour more, which means in turn that eventually this kind of cambered area will end. So you will be in a position where you are carrying too much speed for what the track can do. So you have to be ready for it. You cannot accelerate out of it like it's a normal corner. So you have to be ready for the fact that when you get out of this banking, you will lack some grip. So this is why you see cars spinning on the inside. Crazy spinning on the inside. But anyway, you see cars spinning on the inside of the corner, because you go in, they go full power, they have the grip, and then the banking stops. So boom. So you need to just sort of, how do I say it? You almost want to, you don't want to properly have full acceleration there. So you want to carry enough speed so you don't have to pick up the throttle so much there, because of course it's gonna work until it doesn't work. So it's gonna like snap under you. So if you just carry more speed, that you don't have to accelerate so hard and so early, it's sort of a much smoother experience. And I've also seen video of people there like literally blasting through it and jumping out, which is cool and everything. It's your fourth picture or fifth picture, but it is not the best way to do it, because you lose traction when you jump out. You lose traction twice: first when you come out, and secondly when the left hand side is in the air. Last corner, Galgenkopf. Again, very easy to brake too late here, because the track allows you to it. Because it is a very easy corner to drive wrong and still feel fine. But what you need to do is that it is one big corner, literally. Think about it this way. It is literally one big corner. All the way to the Dotting area is one big corner. From there where you brake to the end. So you have to also drive it that way. It's not one corner straight, another corner. No, it is one big corner. So you can and you have to carry the speed So the first one. So basically you turn in, it's also an early turn, it's early braking, early turning. By the time you are at the curb, you want some powering, not flat, some powering, some push, some powering. So that the car, so you apex and the car goes to the left hand side of the track by itself. You don't have to drive it there. I cannot tell you how many times I told now you have to go to the left, which means that you are so much slower than you should, because the car should automatically, your problem should be that you don't have enough real estate on your left hand side. So this is what you're gonna need to do, carry enough speed that the car can sort of jump its way all the way to the outside, which is the left hand side, and you sort of stay there. Stay there, and this is where you can use sort of a reference when you're learning. When you're not learning, when you know, it's like feel, you know, because unless you have a slow car, it is again not a braking zone, it is sort of this kind of throttle modulation, steering adjustment kind of corner, trying to be flat out as soon as you can. Which means that the car will sort of, you know, with the same steering angle, depending on the amount of throttle you have in, the car will feel different. Will turn and go straighter and turn again. So when you know what you're doing, you have several ways to do it. Being that you want to be flat out as soon as you can. If you're learning, I think there is a sign on the left. The sign is a good rule of thumb, but it's not the fastest way. So the sign is too late. Yeah? The sign is too late, but it is a safe way through it. But if you, as I said, just carry the speed, trust in yourself, trust in the track, go in, be very close to the curb. You need to be very close to the curb. There is more grip there, and use all the track at the exit. So the car should be going all the way to the exit, and you should almost think like, oh my God, this lap is not going to work. So this is when you do it right, it will feel like, oh, now this lap is the one that I'm going to the grass, but it's not. And there you've done it. Then you've done it fast. A lot of understeer in the exit. This should be it. Just don't lift. So if you commit, ride it out. If you have to put the wheels in the grass, let it be, but don't lift. You know, just straighten the wheel and do it. Just modulate, but don't lift completely, because that's also not fun. And there you have it. So right in front of you there is the gantry, so you can actually open your glove box or wherever you've hidden your fucking Harry's lap timer or whatever it might be, and so you can post it on the internet and YouTube and say that it's the fastest 90 horsepower NA in the world, while it's not actually a 90 horsepower NA and it's not stock at all, and you should be ashamed of yourself, and that was not the point in the first place, and I don't even understand what you're trying to prove.
I highly doubt that there is anyone still there. There are many things that I would like to add, but this video is long enough already. I will just tell you how I tackle the track. So for me, especially for public days, there is basically a specific way that I approach all the laps that I do. I always do the laps in pairs. So I do one slow lap, no matter what, even if I'm confident with the car, even if I've drove it 15 or 20 laps that week or the previous day, you know, I would still go out and do the first lap of the day, always very slowly. This track is never the same, so no matter what you think that you know, it might actually change for that specific afternoon. So you might drive in a Tuesday the track and it's fantastic, and maybe overnight the weather changes, the humidity changes, there is an oil spill, there is this, there is that. So I always take that first lap very slowly, and I mean it like 80%, 70%, like slowly. I still push in a couple of corners, especially the low risk stuff, but I do the first lap slowly. I come out of the track, I let the car cool down a little bit and try to feel if there is any mechanical problems. And this also is very important, because in other tracks, normally if you check your car the previous day and then you come do a track day, you're perfectly fine. Here, you might have wheel bearings go in a couple of laps. You might have brakes go, especially in cars that are not properly prepped. So I always get out of that lap, drive a little bit on the public road in normal speeds to understand that there is no strange noises from the car, nothing really strange is happening. And then I will proceed in my second fast lap, let's say. And it is basically a managing risk strategy for me. So I will actually start driving, and if the car feels the right way, and if the driving is there, I will keep pushing. If I feel that the driving might not be there, let's say at the 2 kilometer sign or the 5 kilometer sign, you know, or you arrive at the carousel and you know that you have missed something in the uphill part, you know, I might not really push the second part of the track. So I would say that for me, the first real test to know if it is the day and if the car is there is at the 2 kilometer mark. That right turn in at the 2 kilometer mark is actually one of the first difficult corners of the track. If the car feels right there, and if you really commit and you carry speed in there, you know that you're probably going to attack Hatzenbach and all that section fast. Then of course you arrive at the 5 km sign at Schwedenkreuz. This is always a fast turn in. It is a part of the track that is these days even faster, so you can actually do 190 to 100 km per hour with street cars on semi-slicks, which is actually crazy speed. And this also connects with what we said, that public days have become more dangerous. Like a couple of years back, turning in 200 km per hour at Schwedenkreuz, it would sound completely crazy, but now it's normal. You can actually do it. And of course, when things go wrong at Schwedenkreuz, it's never a good thing. And you're gonna go down to Foxhole. I think it's sort of like a very special feeling, but not a difficult section of the track. And I would say maybe Miss Hit Miss is the next challenging thing. A fast entry at Miss Hit Miss is a very elusive thing for me. It's something that I always sort of struggle to find, And going down to Brightside, of course, the turn-in at the Brightside Bridge, again, a little bit of a difficult turn-in because you actually have the wall there looking at you. And I would say the uphill part is a bit more straightforward. And the next time that I really decide if I'm gonna commit and if this is gonna be a fast lap is at the exit of the carousel. So basically I say hi to Martin that is shooting there and making these very cool shots. And from then on, you sort of start the most difficult and the coolest part of the track. I believe all the uphill to Hohe, Acht, the downhill to Wippermann, Brünnchen even, and of course what comes after, Pflanzgarten 1 and 2 and Stefan-Bellof-S. This is the really, really difficult part of the track. I know that for most people, the famous parts are the carousel. One could say that the carousel is even a boring corner, but for me, everything that happens from Hohe Acht on is actually what makes the lap. I might be having a horrible day, and then I tackle this section and I carry some speed in there, and everything sort of connects, So I don't think you ever do Wippermann easily. I don't think you arrive at the drop and turn in at Stefan-Bellof-S blind, and the car moving, and you do this without really thinking and without really focusing. And of course, Galgenkopf, the last corner, these double turn-ins and the trees opening and you see the main straight and you sort of know that you are alive and the car is in one piece and you finished a lap. This is always special. So don't kid yourself. Of course, the danger and the fact that there is no room for error plays a big reason why we like this track. For me, I would honestly say that this is secondary. I don't really get excited when an activity is dangerous. It is the focus, the intense focus that is required to tackle so many corners and drive the car on the limit for that long, just to piece that one cool lap together is what actually gets me personally. But we said no cliches in this video, so I'm gonna move to the next topic. So you basically have an intro, the main guide by Gabriel, and how I personally tackle my TF laps, my public day laps. I always do them like this. If you are one of these guys that actually sort of line up in the car park or used to line up in the car park because this year has been completely different, just to go out and do the first lap or the last lap of the day, please don't do this. And this is exactly what I mentioned earlier, that we don't really like the way people are doing this and why I personally wouldn't like to have the fastest lap of my car online, because I think that it gave to the people the wrong idea. And this happened from the Ring Banana days, people would sort of think that, okay, we have to get like a 90 horsepower MX-5 and come here and be faster than these guys. This was exactly the opposite of what we kind of wanted to create. And through the years, many people came and they tried to tell us that they were close or they would go faster. And we always explained, it is not a competition. The competitive part, it is only between friends and for fun. We never really approach our laps like this. And I think Gab sums up very well what is the problem with creating a fast car just to drive on TF. And I would let this video play because I agree 100% with what he's saying. He's a little bit strict on the way that he's saying it, but the point is 100% there. So,
what is the point? You're doing it for fun? Then you could also have, I promise you, could have exactly the same amount of fun having 10% of the risks, literally 10% of the risk, and 10% of the cost. You're doing it because you think you're quick, you're spending more money doing it than actually going into a race car, into a race and race. So you can know if you're quick. So literally, fast tourist and fun driving with built-up cars is fucking stupid. There is no way around it. You own a GT3 RS. It is built for the track. You come here, you have fun. My boy. You build a car from the ground up for tourist and fun. You spend 200,000 euros for that. And I don't get it. Honestly, I don't get it. Because it's not, you can come to me and say it's fun. But you are actually building the fastest car you can to be able to put down the fastest lap you can because you want to do that, not because you want to have fun. So you want to prove something to somebody, which would be so much easier and so much cheaper. Literally, a VLN in a V4 car costs probably as much, one stint, costs probably as much as the money that you spend on a track day. without building the car. So if you want to prove something, be my guest, but literally, and I shouldn't judge, you know, to be honest, I shouldn't judge, because people can do whatever they want with their money, and they can do whatever they want with their life, for sure. You want to do it, but you're not, as I said, this has been an argument that's been going on forever. There is no golden pineapple. Nobody gives a single half fuck about how much fast you are than somebody else in Touristenfahrten. And some of the drivers, they take so much chances. And I'm guilty of it, yeah? So I'm guilty of it as well. But with a 90 horsepower car. So there is people taking chances with cars that literally can send you the other side, you know, for nothing. For nothing, literally nothing. Nobody even watches your lap, Jesus Christ. Only your mother, your father, and your brother are gonna be proud of you. It's like, I don't get it.
And that is basically it. Do not build your car in order to have the fastest MX-5 or the fastest BMW 36 or the fastest BMW M2. All these things are honestly irrelevant. When you put a 40,000 euro four-way adjustable suspension, or you come and do every single public session on fresh Dunlop tires because it's the fast tire, when you go out there and you risk pushing slow cars out and overtaking blind corners, push people around, when you tackle the public driving sessions like this, you are doing the wrong thing. You are ready to go out there and take this money and go racing and compete actually with people that are also competing. When you are out there in public days, many of these people out there, they are not competing. And many of the laps that you are comparing yourself online, it's not laps that people put there in order to set a benchmark, you know, to say that this is the fastest Civic or this is the fastest MX-5. And we are guilty on this, but we always thought that people would understand the irony behind all this. Anyway, for those that actually want to know how fast is the car, I think the sectors that we have indicate that the car can actually be under 730, which is a very, very cool thing for an MX-5. However, I have to honestly explain that pulling this kind of lap times out of a manual car, without ABS, without traction control, and don't say in the comments that the car just needs driver mode. Driving these short wheelbase cars with power and with even some setup issues, you know, when you have to handle this type of torque. It is a very, very tricky thing. And I personally struggled a lot this year trying to sort of nail that lap time, going up in a couple of different track days. I would have perfect brakes in one, but I would not have the suspension set up right. Then I would have the suspension set up right, but the brakes would not be there. Then I would get brakes and suspension good, but I would not have fresh tires anymore and the lap time wouldn't be possible, and so on and so on and so on. Still, I got some very interesting data. I especially left one of these laps that they actually have kilometers there, so people can actually look at it. It is definitely not the lap, but it's for sure a very good reference of what an MX-5 with this drivetrain can sort of do. And one last thing, I know that many of you want to know more about the car, what exactly is going to happen if you're going to see it in the channel again, and how exactly it sits right now today. It is a bit of a pity because the lap that you saw, it's actually not with the current final spec with the refreshed suspension and everything. The car actually improved a lot with the last changes that we did. There might be one last technical video that shows all these things, but in my head, the moment the car completed this trip, its whole journey is sort of closed, and maybe a new one starts, maybe not. But I have a feeling that this is gonna be the last you will see of me and the car for a long time. So what did we learn today? We learned that the Nurburgring Nordschleife is probably the coolest, baddest, most epic track out there. I know that you knew this already, but I don't want this whole lap time and crowd discussion to sort of dilute the bottom line of this video. That is that this place is the best racetrack in the world. This place is unique. This is a track that you should definitely visit and drive once in your lifetime, and if you can, multiple times in your lifetime. And if you are very serious about it, you should actually focus on doing track days. And if you just want a casual experience, public days are fantastic. However, when you do come here, treat it with the respect that it deserves. Don't try to be an internet hero. Don't try to do like we do, because we also do wrong plenty. Don't do it for the Instagram fame. Don't do it for the cool on boards. Don't do it to say that you are faster than a GT3 RS or an M3 or whatever you're trying to pass. Don't do it to prove that you are the best of your breed. You are the fastest of what? Of whatever you want to be the fastest. Try to do it for yourself. Try to do it for the epic experience that it is. That is the end of this video. I want to thank you again for being with us for the last 6 seasons, the last 5 years, for following One Lap Heroes, for commenting in the things that we do, for offering a helping hand, or just being there to criticize us, in front or behind us. It doesn't really matter. We appreciate the whole thing. I want for sure to share my love with the whole One Lap Hero crew. All the people that you see often, and all those that you don't see that much. You know, Andrea, Thomas, all these people that they make like more rare appearances. Of course, Gab and Sergio, and then all of us, all the people that actually put a hand, and all the new people that you might see in the future. Everyone that has been around us as a community. I could not be more grateful. And of course, the fantastic Trackday organizers that operate here, people like Sky Limits and Destination Nurburgring, people that have always supported our stupid ideas and helped us to get on track and get this quality track time that sometimes is like really needed when you have bigger, faster projects. I highly recommend, if you want to come here to drive fast, to really look into a track day. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't enjoy, again, the public driving session. But if you're gonna be here on a mission, at least do it in a track day. Stay pumped. If you're trapped in your garage, go finish your project car. If you can actually go out and drive no matter in what status your car is. Doesn't matter if it has the perfect tires or the perfect suspension, just go out and enjoy it. And take all this negative energy and whatever didn't really materialize this year and use it to be inspired for the seasons to come. Don't forget to be a One Lap Hero.